My name is Jordan.
And we are colleagues.
Today we'll be going over our journey, specifically describing our tests and our key learnings. At the start, we had the goal of tapping into the food delivery market, specifically targeting UC Berkeley and college campuses, with the differentiating factor of just highly localized deliveries. So our first test was
So our first hypothesis on our first test was that we believe that there would be a high demand for a food delivery service that delivers to the most obscure places on campus. And essentially why we had this hypothesis is just like Harrison said, we believe that the only way to differentiate ourselves from other platforms was through this aspect of direct delivery. And direct delivery to Moffitt or whatever library or whatever place on campus. And how we tested it was we conducted an experiment with a potential customer on the service where he ordered the food and one of us delivered it to him in Moffitt Library. And that's kind of how we gauged our initial demand for the service.
And what we've learned from the test was that we learned that there is a high demand for a food delivery service that delivers to the most obscure places on campus. And then feedback, we validated the market for college students, and they said it was efficient, cheap, and convenient, saved more time than usual.
next.
All right, so our second test, essentially our hypothesis now was we believe that the highest demand will be for students who are still studying in the least active places on campus, for example, 5th floor of Moffitt. And this is because we had already established an initial demand for libraries, and we wanted to know which library would give us, or which part of a library would give us the most profits. And how we tested it is we conducted interviews near our target customer group, or people who correlate with our hypothesis.
And from that, we realized that students who study in the most rigorous environments are the ones who are willing to switch over to CalEats from established platforms such as Uber Eats and Postmates.
Exactly.
Next.
So our third test. So after we already established initial demand and then demand in certain specific places, we went to our third test, which is we believe that frequent users on college campuses on the established food delivery platforms would be more willing to switch over to CalEats than the average person here in the Berkeley ecosystem. And essentially how we tested that was
So after implementing the basic criteria, we measured the percentage of people who would be willing to use our service. And from that, we learned that our market has very high barriers to entry, that we must either engage in mass marketing and use more value or pivot because of the competitive environment.
Exactly, yeah. So test 4. After we'd established all the other things, we went to our fourth hypothesis, which was that we believe that users will prioritize and value price over accessibility, which was our main value proposition. We're asking this to pave a crucial path to find out if our idea is viable. So essentially our whole idea was solely on the fact that we can deliver food directly, but if users didn't value price over accessibility, then, didn't value, price over accessibility, our whole idea would be kind of down the drain. So this was a crucial test, and how we tested it was we interviewed several students and asked what they valued in the food delivering services and compared it to the value that we offered. And we conducted this in the libraries and generally on campus.
And on top of that, we did lots of primary and secondary research to validate that.
Exactly.
And the key learnings from that test was that we learned that the main priority for consumers using food delivery platforms was pricing and timing for the people we've interviewed on general campus. However, for those in the libraries, accessibility is valued the most because they can save time while studying.
And the way we did that was we made a spreadsheet containing all the variables that we took into account in the food delivery service, such as time, location, accessibility, and stuff like that. And we aggregated which was the most important values for students and what they wanted to see in a food delivery platform, and we kind of based it on what they wanted.
Yeah, this was a very, very crucial test and kind of paving the trajectory for the rest of our business. So our fifth hypothesis, after we had established all of this and established what attribute or value that students valued the most, we tested, and our hypothesis was that we believe that all libraries at UC Berkeley would have the same demand for accessibility when it comes to food delivery. And we wanted to know this because when we're actually profitable, we want to know if it's okay to deliver to any library, or do we need to prioritize delivering to a certain library over another one. And how we did this is we conducted interviews in which the potential user answered what they value the most regarding time, accessibility, or price. And also they answered if they're currently using a food delivery service and how loyal they are on a scale of 1 to 10. And this is just to kind of, once again, gauge the potential demand.
Yeah, and looking at the various proportions for each value and comparing the data between the different libraries that we conducted these experiments. So from our findings or measurements, we determined that accessibility is in fact proportionally the highest demand value within all the 5 libraries we interviewed in. And in particular, the data points to a correlation between distance from the outskirts of campus and the preference for accessibility when it comes to food delivery. And that is a variation between the demands of accessibility for each specific library.
Perfect. So after we had established all this, we went to our 6th test. Our hypothesis was that we believe that the price people are willing to deliver food will be in the range of 50 cents to $5 in order to sustain our business. And this was another very, very crucial test because it was all about profitability in the future. And what we did was we conducted experiments, or I guess what we tested was, how we tested was we conducted experiments regarding the minimum compensation for each person per delivery. And this was also to gauge whether we wanted to do a variable rate or a fixed rate regarding compensation for each delivery.
So for this one was like a big test in terms of like one of our most practical tests. We measured the results by recording and analyzing each value, and we realized that currently those who have part-time jobs or previously had part-time jobs require higher opportunity costs because of the opportunity cost. And this tells us that the minimum compensation required by average students will be towards the upper end spectrum of 50 cents to $5. And yeah, it kind of just told us like what we would kind of sell it at, a fixed rate, and what price we would sell it at, and what kind of profit we would get from each delivery, and what profit the deliverer would make.
Yeah, so lastly, we tested our MVP, and then our hypothesis was that we believe that customers will be trusting to respond to our email campaign. And so we tested our MVP, which was a mailing list, and we emailed different mailing campaigns and received people's Venmos and their phone numbers. And what we kind of learned from this was that people are pretty trusting with their Venmo accounts and their phone numbers, and that from here on out, we can use a hub phone number to communicate directly. Thank you.